The Galactic Council Chamber was an awe-inspiring structure, a testament to the combined achievements of countless civilizations. Seated at the far end, humanity's lone representative, General Marcus, listened intently as the murmurs of the assembled species grew louder. For decades, the Council had upheld the fragile peace between its members, a peace built on treaties and mutual cooperation. Humanity, though a relatively new member, had proven its worth, earning a place at the table through relentless determination and ingenuity. But today, the mood was different. The usual polite discourse had given way to tension, and Marcus felt the shift like a blade to the spine. The council speaker, an imposing avian figure named Speaker Korash, rose to address the assembly. "The time has come," Korash announced, his voice sharp and authoritative, "to address the growing threat that humanity poses to the balance of this galaxy." Marcus's gaze hardened, but he remained silent. He had anticipated resistance to humanity's rapid progress, but this was more than political posturing. Korash continued, his words striking like a hammer. "It has come to our attention that humanity has violated the Resource Allocation Treaty. Evidence points to their colonies exploiting forbidden zones for rare materials. This blatant disregard for our laws cannot be ignored." A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. Marcus stood, his towering frame casting a long shadow. "These accusations are baseless," he said, his voice calm, yet filled with authority. "Provide proof, and we will address it. Until then, this is nothing but an attempt to justify actions you've already decided to take." Korash's beady eyes narrowed. "Your kind has always been defiant, General. The Council has voted. Humanity's membership is hereby revoked. Effective immediately, your colonies are no longer under our protection." The room erupted in chaos. Marcus, though outwardly composed, felt his anger boiling beneath the surface. Revoking membership meant open season on human territories. Pirates, hostile species, even Council-aligned forces would be free to attack without consequence. "You're condemning millions of innocent lives," Marcus said, his voice now steely with rage. "This isn't justice. It's cowardice disguised as law." Korash leaned forward, a cruel smile playing on his beak. "Perhaps humanity should have thought of the consequences before overstepping its bounds." The chamber fell silent as Marcus's words cut through the air. "If you strike at humanity, we will not cower. We will not beg. We will show you why we survived when so many others perished." Without waiting for a response, Marcus turned and walked out of the chamber. Outside, his aides awaited him, their faces pale with fear. "They've declared war on us," one said softly. "No," Marcus replied, his voice cold and resolute. "They've underestimated us." As he stepped onto the transport back to his flagship, Marcus's mind raced. The Council thought humanity was weak, fragmented, and easy to crush. They were wrong. Humanity's survival was built on defying the odds, and this time would be no different. The galaxy had declared war on humanity. Now, humanity would show the galaxy what that truly meant. The fleet emerged from hyperspace into a region marked by dense asteroid fields and volatile energy pockets. General Marcus stood on the command deck, watching as the Council's armada began to encircle their position. The trap had been set. This was the Council's attempt to corner and annihilate the human fleet in a decisive battle, but Marcus had planned for this. "Status report," Marcus demanded, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Enemy fleet is deploying in a pincer formation, sir. They've brought heavy battleships and fighter squadrons, but their movement through the asteroids is slow. Their flagship is holding back at the rear," his tactical officer replied. Marcus studied the holographic map, noting every weakness in their positioning. "They think brute force will win this day," he said to no one in particular. "Let's show them what precision looks like." The human fleet divided into 3 smaller groups, each maneuvering through the asteroid field with surgical precision. The Council's ships, larger and less agile, struggled to adjust. Human ships darted between asteroids, using the debris for cover as they launched coordinated strikes on the Council's vanguard. Explosions lit up the dark expanse as enemy cruisers were systematically disabled. The Council's commanders, accustomed to predictable combat strategies, were slow to react. Marcus exploited every second of their hesitation, directing his forces to cut off supply lines and isolate their units. In the midst of the battle, a human frigate was hit, its engines disabled. Council fighters closed in, but before they could deliver the killing blow, reinforcements arrived, driving them back. Marcus's orders were clear. No ship was to be left behind. Every soldier knew they were part of something greater, and that unity gave them strength. Despite the victories, the cost of the battle began to mount. Reports of casualties poured in, each one a stark reminder of the price of survival. Marcus didn't flinch as the names of the fallen were read aloud, but the weight of each loss settled in his chest. He had always known this fight would demand sacrifices, but knowing didn't make it easier. One of the more intense moments came when a council destroyer, crippled but still armed, surrendered rather than face annihilation. Aboard the ship were dozens of alien crew members, young soldiers who had been conscripted into the council's war machine. Marcus ordered his officers to treat the prisoners humanely, a decision that sparked heated debate among his staff. "They wouldn't show us the same mercy," one officer argued. "We're not them," Marcus replied firmly. "We don't win this war by becoming what we despise." The captured soldiers, though hesitant, began to share intelligence about the council's growing desperation. Morale among their forces was faltering, and dissent was spreading through the ranks. This information confirmed what Marcus had suspected. The council was overextending itself. As the battle reached its climax, Marcus ordered a bold maneuver. The human fleet concentrated its firepower on the council's flagship, forcing it to reveal its hidden command center. In a final act of defiance, the council's fleet attempted to protect their leaders, but they were too late. The flagship was disabled, its commanding officers forced to flee. The victory was decisive, but the cost was undeniable. As the wreckage of the battle drifted into the void, Marcus addressed his fleet. "We have won this day, but our fight is far from over. Remember those we've lost. Honor their sacrifice by continuing to fight for the future they believed in." Later, in the quiet of his quarters, Marcus reviewed reports from across the galaxy. The council's grip was slipping, but the war was far from won. He thought of the colonies that had been razed, the civilians who had suffered, and the soldiers who had given everything. The council's cruelty had revealed its true nature, and Marcus knew their desperation would only grow. But he also knew that humanity had shown something far more powerful: the will to endure, to adapt, and to rise above even the darkest of times. The council had underestimated humanity from the beginning, and now they were paying the price. Marcus vowed to see this fight through to the end, no matter the cost. For the fallen, for the living, and for the future of humanity. The council's desperation was evident. Across the galaxy, their fleets were faltering, their supply lines disrupted, and their alliances weakening. Reports of rebellion among the council's lesser member species began to trickle in, species that had long suffered under the oppressive rule of the dominant powers. Humanity's relentless campaign had done more than just cripple the council militarily, it had exposed the cracks in their foundation. General Marcus stood in the war room aboard the U.S. Resolute, surrounded by his senior staff. The map of the galaxy before them displayed the results of their efforts. Entire sectors once controlled by the council now operated in chaos, their fleets scattered, their strongholds vulnerable. But Marcus knew that the council would not go quietly. They would make a final stand, one last attempt to crush humanity and salvage their dominance. "We've pushed them to the edge," Marcus said, his voice steady. "Now they'll either collapse under their own weight or come at us with everything they have left. Either way, this ends soon." As predicted, the council made their move. A massive fleet was spotted mobilizing near the Ardent Rift, a region known for its treacherous gravitational anomalies. Intelligence reports confirmed that this fleet represented the bulk of the council's remaining military strength. It was a gamble, a desperate attempt to draw humanity into a pitched battle where the council hoped to regain the upper hand. But Marcus was ready. He had spent months anticipating this moment, studying the council's tactics, learning their weaknesses. As the human fleet prepared to engage, he addressed his forces one last time. "They believe this is their chance to break us," he began, his voice echoing across every ship. "They think we'll falter, that we'll hesitate. But they've forgotten who we are. We are humanity.
We don't bow.
We don't break. And today we remind them why." The battle that followed was unlike any that had come before. The Council's fleet was vast, its ships bristling with firepower, but they were slow, cumbersome, and reliant on outdated tactics. Marcus's forces, smaller and more agile, exploited every advantage. Using the gravitational anomalies of the rift, human ships outmaneuvered their opponents, striking with precision and disappearing before the Council could respond. For hours, the battle raged, each side refusing to yield. Human losses mounted, but the Council's forces suffered even more. By the time the dust settled, the Council's fleet lay in ruins. Their flagship, the Pax Eternum, was crippled, its commanding officers forced to surrender. The victory was complete, but Marcus knew the war wasn't truly over. The Council's leadership, humiliated and weakened, now faced the consequences of their arrogance. Marcus insisted on terms that would ensure humanity's safety and independence, while sending a clear